Okay, so today we are going to look at inverses. And an inverse basically just undoes something else. So the inverse of addition is subtraction. The inverse of multiplication is division, and so on. So when we are algebraically finding the inverse of a function, we have two basic steps that we are going to follow. We are going to basically flip-flop x and y, and then we are going to resolve for y. So just a reminder that f of x is just a function notation that means y. So if we are going to find the inverse, we are going to flip-flop x and y. So we are going to have x equals 5 minus y over 2. All I did was flip-flop. Step 2, we're just going to now we're going to solve the equation for y. Just like it was before, it was solved for y. Now we're going to do the same thing. To undo divided by 2, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2, which leaves me at 2x equals 5 minus y. Okay, I don't want 5 minus y, I just want y, so I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, which leaves me at 2x minus 5 equals negative y. Well, I don't want negative y, I want positive y, so I just need to divide both sides, everything on both sides by negative 1. Which means I'm going to be at y equals, getting y all by itself again, y equals negative 2x plus 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at another one. Okay, so over here we've got a cubic function, and again, our f of x is just a fancy y. It's function notation for y. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to flip-flop our x and y. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to have x equals y plus 2 to the third power minus 3. Now we're going to do all of our steps, and we're just going to get y all by itself. So let's add 3 to both sides. So we're going to have x plus 3 over here. I'm going to group that together because that's together on the left-hand side of the equation, equals y plus 2 to the third power. Now we can't subtract 2 or anything yet. We need to get rid of that square, or that cubed. So to undo a cube, we are just going to take the cube root of both sides. So that leaves us with the cube root of x plus 3 on the left, and we have y plus 2 on the left. Because when we take the cube root of something that's cubed, it just basically cancels each other out. And then we want y by itself, so I need to subtract 2 from both sides. So we could write this either as the cube root of x plus 3 minus 2, or we could write negative 2 plus the cube root of x plus 3. Depends on how you want to write it. I'm going to go ahead and write it this way, negative 2 plus the cube root of x plus 3 equals y. Now if we're thinking about this in terms of it being an inverse, right? So an inverse undoes something, right? So if we look at our original equation, we have a minus 3 up here. Now we have a plus 3 in our inverse. We have a positive 2 up here. We have a negative 2 up here, or down here, excuse me. We have a cubed, and we have a cube root in our answer. So all of those things are inverses of each other. So we just undid everything that we had in our original equation. Let's just look at a couple more examples here. Again, just looking at different types of problems we might see. Okay, so again, we have y equals, pen here. So we're going to flip-flop our x and our y. So now we are going to have x equals the square root of 2y minus 1 plus 4. Okay, so we need to get that square root by itself, so I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And again, I am going to go ahead and group this x minus 4 together. And I have the square root of 2y minus 1. Okay, then I need to get y by itself, so I'm going to square both sides. What that squaring does leaves me with x minus 4 squared. And then on the right, I just have 2y minus 1. Okay, let me see if I can shrink this down a little bit because I'm running out of room. Okay, well, I'm not quite sure how to shrink it down. I was trying to do that and I can't figure it out. So I'll just have to go over here a little bit. And I need to get rid of that -1, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I'm going to have x minus 4 squared plus 1 equals 2y. Okay, so then I don't want 2y, I just want y, so I'm going to divide everything by 2. So y is going to equal x minus 4 squared plus 1 over 2. So if we go back and look at what we have here, in our original, we had a +4, now we have a -4. We had a -1, now we have a +1. We had a times 2, now we have a divided by 2. Excuse me, I should have been putting those in the bottom one there. So all we did was we undid everything in our original equation by doing the inverse. Okay, so make sure you have that written down. I'm going to go ahead and erase what I have here so I have some room to write on the right-hand side. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this one. We've got y here, and we're just going to flip-flop. So we'd have x equals y squared plus 2. So we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. And I'm going to group that x minus 2 together, equals y squared. And we want to take the square root of both sides. So we're going to have y equals the square root of x minus 2. Again, we started out with a +2 here. We have a -2. We have a squared. Now we have a square root. Everything is undone. Okay, going on here just a little bit further. So let's move on down here. We've got y again. So we're going to say x equals 3 divided by y minus 2. To undo, divided by, excuse me, I'm not undoing divided by y minus 2. Write that there. We do, though, need to get the y minus 2 out of the denominator. So I'm going to think about it this way. I'm going to multiply both sides by y minus 2, which leaves me with x times y minus 2 equals 3. Those two are going to cancel. And I don't want x times y minus 2, so I'm going to go ahead and divide by x on both sides. Okay, which leaves me at y minus 2 equals 3 over x. I want to add 2 to both sides, so I would have y equals 3 over x plus 2. And for right now, we are not necessarily going to worry too much about domains or intervals or anything. We're just going to look at what it means to be an inverse. Okay, then we've got, what do we got here? We've got the 5th root of x minus 2 plus 6. So we're just going to switch our x and our y. The 5th root of x minus 2 plus 6. Again, I need to get this guy by himself, so I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. I'm going to go ahead and group those two together on the right, and I've got the 5th root of x minus 2. Okay, how do we undo a 5th root? Well, we take the 5th power on both sides. Okay, that will just cancel those out. You're left with x minus 6 to the 5th power equals, oops, hang on, one of these has got to be a y. This is a y. Sorry about that. Equals y minus 2. I forgot to switch that up in here. That should have been when I switched. Why do I have x? This should also have been a y. Sorry about that. I apologize. That should have been a y minus 2 there underneath the radical after I switched my x and y in that very first step. So then I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and I get y equals x minus 6 to the 5th plus 2. Again, if you look, just thinking logically, again, we started out up here. I didn't talk about this with the last one, but we started out with a +6. Now we have a -6. We had a 5th root. Now we have a 5th power. We had a -2. Now we have a +2. So your answers should be fairly logical when you get them all finished. So your homework is going to be a Kudo worksheet that can be found in Schoology and needs to be submitted when you are done. Good luck.